So game week 4 is over then, and it's time to have a little review and see what we can do to make things better going into game week 5. So if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. Otherwise, let's just get straight into it. So starting off with a quick review of my team for game week 4 then. 62 points all out, 63 was the average I believe. So it was okay. Again, it's another mediocre week. I'm not really making any gains, but I'm going to have to look to change that in the future. My goalkeeper partnership once again didn't work. No clean sheets there. Cucurella being benched for Chelsea was a nasty surprise. So he only had a 1-pointer. My transfer in Senesi come in, got DEFCON, but lost the clean sheet to Brighton. And then Richards, he got the clean sheet that I thought he would get, but no DEFCON, understandably, against Sunderland. Not that I was expecting it. Gakpo, my other transfer, didn't return unfortunately, but Salah did, however, as lucky as that was in the last minute with that penalty. But we will take that, and we'll also take Semenyo with his fantastic 13-point haul. What a consistent performer he's been this season. Iliman Ndiaye surprised a few probably with DEFCON points. That was the only return in the attack for Everton, so all Grealish owners were left to rue that transfer in for this week anyway. And then Mateta couldn't get the goal against Sunderland. Watkins blanked yet again against Everton. And João Pedro with another consistent return from him. So that wasn't too bad either. I had 2 4-pointers on the bench, which is a bit of a shame. But I couldn't honestly see myself starting Anderson against Arsenal or Joe Rodon against Fulham, especially when I was pretty happy with my defensive options. It's obviously easy to look in hindsight and think you could have done better, but I was happy with the way I lined up. Maybe I just didn't have the rub of the green. Didn't have somebody like Van de Ven, who was my other option to bring in instead of Senesi. But went with Senesi because of his consistent DEFCON contributions. Didn't pay off fully this week anyway. Right, let's go and have a look at a review of some of the teams in the Premier League. So let's start with Arsenal then, and it's a clean sheet yet again for them. Probably they look like the best defence in the league, and I think we would have all expected that going into the season. I'm probably ruined not having any of their defensive assets early in the season. I was put off by their fixtures, I think, but even through some difficult fixtures, they've proved they can keep clean sheets. So don't doubt their defence is my lesson learned. Gyökeres and Eze both returned as well, which is nice and makes them really good options going forward. Certainly Gyökeres. Eze may be one you want to monitor, and then Zubimendi got a haul, 2 goals. Is he an option going forward? I'm not too sure, considering that he hasn't really hit those heights in previous weeks. It could just be an anomaly for this week. Bournemouth then, as I said before, Senesi, he did hit his DEFCON again, which was a positive. Semenyo is proven to be essential, I think. Let me know if you think he's essential, but for me now, at his price range, there's nobody better in midfield, forget in price. So he's a must-have in everybody's team at the moment. And Evan Nielsen with a little assist as well. So that's 2 returns in 2 games for him. Aston Villa's struggles continue. Blanks for Watkins and Rodgers yet again. But what do we want to do going forward? I've taken Rodgers out last week, and all of us Watkins owners, it may be really tempting to take him out, but our fixtures in the next 3 are Sunderland, Fulham and Burnley, and they are fixtures that, if Villa are going to turn it around, they're the sort of fixtures that will do it. So I wouldn't put it past Watkins to do the business in there, and it's a tough decision to be made going into those. Brentford, Sharda is off the mark. He was sort of my dark horse for the season. I did mention him in some of my earlier videos, and it hasn't really paid off. But he's off the mark now, and he could be one to watch for Brentford. A little pricey at 7 million, but hopefully he can kick on from there, as he has had impressive returns in the last 2 seasons. On top of that, Kelleher, watching the game, he was really impressive in goal, making some really good saves. And, you know, up against these maybe weaker attacks, trying to find the way past Kelleher and that Brentford defence could be quite difficult in the future. So maybe a good option going forward. You have to consider that. Then we got Brighton. Now Mitoma, another one who's returned twice in 2 games, a goal and an assist. But everybody else in that Brighton attack hasn't really grabbed the attention. The only other one that may have grabbed your attention was Ruta, and he was subbed off in the 66th minute. He did start this week, unlike other weeks. So there's a lot to avoid really in that Brighton team going forward. Then Burnley, solid defensive display from them against Liverpool. They were very unlucky, but it's promising for those of you that own Dubravka as your 4 million goalkeeper and Estev. Maybe you can sort of rely on these when you need to bring them in off your bench. And then also, they didn't offer much in attack. I don't think many of us are looking at Burnley attackers anyway, but just a big note on that. They just did not create a thing, did they? Obviously, they won't play teams like Liverpool every week, but I think it's sort of reiterated what we already knew with Burnley. So moving on to Chelsea then, and Cole Palmer is back with a bang, coming off the bench to score, and there's going to be a lot of people, or certainly a few people, scrambling to get him back in their teams, I think, going forward. Also, João Pedro with another return from him. It was just an assist this time, but still a 7-pointer, which you can't turn your nose up at. Caicedo is another surprising one, the 3rd highest scoring midfielder in FPL. Obviously a contribution of DEFCON, but even a defensive midfielder. He scored 2 goals in those 4 games so far this season. Now, I can't see that continuing, but he certainly could be a decent option for a 5.5 million midfielder. You know, if he's going to chip in with a goal, maybe an assist every now and then, but his DEFCON contributions are insane. He is absolutely smashing that threshold most games. So maybe a good consistent bench warmer for you. Cucurella, like I said earlier, in my team was benched. So even if they had kept the clean sheet, Chelsea, Cucurella wouldn't have been getting any of those points, which was a bit of a shock to me. I think it's more in preparation for midweek with the Champions League coming, but it's something I'm going to have to monitor going forward now. Do I want 6.1 million tied up in a defender that's not going to play every week, or is going to be rested when Champions League is just around the corner? I don't know. We'll have to see. Crystal Palace. They did look like they missed Ismail Assar. I was kind of hoping Mateta would take the ball by the horns and become the main man in this game, which he didn't. He did blank. Crystal Palace looking a little bit toothless because of the missing midfielders, maybe missing Eze as well. But it was a clean sheet yet again, and their defence looked reasonably solid once again. But there was no DEFCON points, which wasn't really expecting, like I said, with people like Richards, as Crystal Palace would have expected more of the ball against Sunderland. Then Everton, I mentioned before, Jack Grealish blanked. The curse of the most transferred player in continues. Njai, DEFCON bonus, and that was a fantastic bonus for me. Did not see that come in, and it felt like a little mini return from him. And it was yet another clean sheet for Everton, and Tarkowski hitting DEFCON once again. Surprise, surprise, no surprise there. Fulham, Anderson got 2 bonus points, DEFCON and a clean sheet. So those of you who owned him, that was a nice little return, and maybe somebody to monitor going forward. But it was Fulham's first clean sheet of the season, so maybe one not to get too carried away with, but sort of a player that you can trust if you already have him in your team. But there was nothing really going on, and nothing that really inspired an attack. They couldn't find a way through them. Who did they play? Leeds, sorry. I had to think then. They couldn't find a way through Leeds, unfortunately. So I don't think we'll be going to be looking at many of their attackers in the near future. Muniz looks like the nailed striker now, but again, it was a blank in a game you probably expect to score from. Although I would say the Leeds defence has been good this season. As we move on to Leeds, it was nearly their third clean sheet of the season. Rodon, best £4 million defender, quite possibly. I'm happy with him still on my bench unless I end up upgrading and not needing that £4 million defender. But he looks like a good option if you need one. They just can't score goals, Leeds. That, again, another team that you're just not going to be looking at any of their attackers. They do struggle to find the back of the net. I'm not sure where the goals are really coming from. But certainly defensively, I think they can continue to pick up some clean sheets here or there. So next up, Liverpool and Salah's late return, which was very fortunate for us owners. I think we are getting a little bit sort of demolished now from Haaland owners, and the people went for Haaland over Salah, which is a bit of a shame. You also look at the rest of the Liverpool team, there was blanks everywhere in that 1-0. Any Liverpool attacker, unfortunately, didn't return. And the other thing as well, looking at some of the news that Arne Slot dropped before the game, Isak is likely to get 45 minutes roughly in the Champions League on Wednesday. So still not a good UCL Premier League asset for us, but certainly somebody we can certainly start to consider in a week or two's time. Maybe by the time you start to put consider your wild cards, maybe jump the gun with that one a little bit potentially. Like I said before, Haaland's been absolutely formidable. He is the premium asset to own, I think, going forward. May not be done this week, but certainly on my wild card, which could potentially be the week after, I will likely be bringing him in. And maybe waving goodbye to Salah. And maybe, just maybe, there's a Foden revival coming after a poor season last season. He looked really good, and a little surprise, he got DEFCON points as well, so it was a nice haul for Foden owners, but I can't imagine there's too many of them out there. Manchester United, it was really hard to see any positives in what they did at the weekend. They've got a mixed fixture run coming up as well, promoted teams, but they've also got Liverpool. Bruno missed DEFCON points this week, which is the sort of game that I probably would have expected him to get it in a sort of Manchester derby as well, him getting stuck in, but he didn't. And to be honest, going forward, if you're thinking of Man United players, he is the only real asset of worth. And Burmo had some good chances and maybe would have scored apart from a great save from Donnarumma. But no, I think Bruno is the only asset you're going to consider from Manchester United going forward, if any. Newcastle United and Voltemada was off the mark with the debut goal. It could be a good punt going forward or maybe one to watch. It's up to you. But certainly somebody we could keep on our radar, with Johan Visser, the new signing as well, being injured for up to 4 to 6 weeks, I believe. So I think Voltemada is a nailed-on attacker in that Newcastle attack. Maybe a good one to go for if you are looking for something a little bit different. They've also got 3 out of 4 clean sheets this season, so that defence probably wasn't too highly owned at the start of the season, but certainly some of those players you should be looking at. Maybe Livramento, Burn. Trippier actually got 2 bonus points as well, so that almost seems like the Trippier of old. Is he an option going forward? Potentially. He's starting games, so certainly that Newcastle defence is somebody to look at, full stop. Nottingham Forest, the flip side of that, defence was really poor against Arsenal, but they have got a pair of really good fixtures coming up with Burnley and Sunderland up next. So if you are still holding onto those Nottingham Forest assets, they're probably teams that you want to be targeting with Nottingham Forest, and you probably want to bring in those defenders, for example, Nico Williams, Murillo, off your bench and into the team for those. Maybe put your faith in them. Anderson looks solid, like you saw in my team. He got the 4 points on the bench there for me. But looking solid is one thing. DEFCON's limited to 2 points at the end of the day, and just being solid and getting DEFCON doesn't always translate into a good FPL player, I don't think. Assists and goals are lacking with him, and I was aware of that. I just thought he'd hit those DEFCON a little bit more consistently than what he has done so far. Okay, Sunderland then, and Granit Xhaka seems like a decent option at 5 to 5.5 million. He's ticking along quite nicely and hitting DEFCON in the majority of his games and chipping in with the odd assist. So obviously not somebody we'd look to bring in, but if you're on a wild card, you need that cheap defender. He's somebody to consider. It's also their second clean sheet of the season for Sunderland, so there is some defensive capabilities there as well, which is quite nice. Tottenham now, they recovered from their blip against Bournemouth, and it did seem like it was a blip. Maybe it's a good fixture to bounce back with West Ham, but Van der Ven hauled in that game. He really did. He was somebody I was looking to bring in a week ago, and then I sort of jumped on the Senesi hype wagon, leaving Van der Ven and pushing firmly to the back of my mind, and he has punished me for that. I think I went more with it, like I said earlier, with the DEFCON points, but is Van der Ven going to do that every week? I don't know. They've still got some good fixtures to come up, so he could. The other thing is Xavi Simons with a debut assist. So at £7 million, and if you can guarantee his starts, which do look good now, he could be a good option and a bit of a differential before anybody else jumps on him. Certainly one to monitor anyway. And then West Ham themselves, it's not good, is it? It's gone back. The Forest result did look like just a flash in the pan. It did come out of nowhere. And then also the Paqueta hype train. I sort of got it midweek, but then when West Ham come back and put a performance in like that, that's not going to help Paqueta's chances of getting FPL points. And then suddenly now it just feels like a bit of a hype train last week. And now all of a sudden I can't really get on board with that. It's... Where's his points going to come from in the future if West Ham continue to play like that? Maybe with a manager sacking, I hate to say it, and maybe bringing in somebody like Nuno who has left Forest could work for West Ham, and maybe we could see some changes there. But once again, it's not looking great for West Ham. And then Wolves, Jose Sa surprised me. He was, I believe, ill, so with a bit of luck, he will be back between the sticks in the next game. And then Jorgen Strand Larsen's injury has been sort of said as day by day. He missed the game at the weekend. So we'll have to see with him going forward. He's not sort of a player you want to look at bringing in. Or even though they do have a good fixture run, you need to make sure he's back in the team and playing before you commit to anything like that. So there's my roundup heading into game week 5. Next video will be the transfer targets video, so we can sort of accumulate all that ramble and really focus in on who we would like to bring in. That'll be coming in the next day or two, so stay tuned for that and subscribe so you don't miss it. Otherwise, I will see you in that video.